press conference after, but we were correct. Jerome Powell did speak of rate hikes in March. The reason this is important, you guys, is because to begin with, inflation, I spoke on in my last podcast, is about anywhere from 6 to 15%, depending on if you want to trust the government or John Williams at shadowstats.com. And my whole argument behind inflation in relation to raising rates is when you hike interest rates, you need to hike rates that match inflationary costs if you truly want to get inflation under control. So we don't know how many rate hikes they're going to do. I know that he very much nuanced and there's his semantics. Just because Jerome Powell, who is no Alan Greenspan at all, lacks the charm, the grace, and in my opinion, the Carlyle Group is an extraordinary group of men. I mean, David Rubenstein is a just genius. I would go grab his coffee just to have the opportunity to work for him or the Declaration Group. However, I don't know how the Carlyle Group ended up with Mitt Romney and Jerome Powell, and that's who we have in politics, because there are just so many wonderfully minded men that could probably do our government and our financial institutions or our politics a little bit. Stuart, I don't know, maybe the knowledge would be a little bit better. I don't know how to put that. However, I am just going to urge you all to please look beyond the Federal Reserve and just look around. Our price is going down. Is life getting better for you? You know, let's just say fuck the stock market for now. If you're not invested in the stock market, don't worry about it. Most people are not worried about it. What we should be worried about is stagflation, inflation, a pension crisis, which I know affects many people, and what the world is looking like, particularly China and Evergrande. Evergrande is the second largest property developer in the world. I would say the world. And they defaulted again, along with Cynic, Fantasia. What matters is real estate in China makes up anywhere between and I could announce or pronounce. And so when we see something like Evergrande default and they continue to always, they're telling these offshore people, just hold on with our debt, hold on with our debt. I do get concerned because I have an issue with our dollar. Our dollar is on borrowed time. It's lost. Could potentially replace the dollar as the world reserve. Live life day to day as I'm gathering things in the grocery store. You know, what is giving our dollar value right now? And I would say absolutely nothing but hope strings and the idea of quantitative easing. Now, when they begin to pull back from that, in the meantime, I just wanted to get on. And again, I'm not giving any financial advice at all. I would consider myself someone who has experience. I did create Orca Oshi Capital, I would say we're the first minority founded, first multi-gender, male, woman, Jewish, and African American. So with my best friend, I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited around the adventures that it's going to bring. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not working my ass off on projects to develop. Does not mean I'm not working my ass off every day to look at certain things such as gold, silver, Bitcoin. As a girl that's a digital asset management girl who just was in the digital asset management space since 2016 when Bitcoin was at 410 per coin, who's watched this egregious influx of shit coins. And I'm sorry, I'm going to call them what they are. Cut it off now. Let's be valued investors if you do want to. Let's just hypothetically, as a collective friend, social media, reality, please, 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 for the love of God, can we agree to that? Can I make my fans take a pledge that whatever type of investing we do, whether it be in real estate, digital assets, commodities, stocks. I mean, commodities are fun with event-driven strategies. They're really fun derivative strategies, whatever it might be. Can we make a pledge to not use social media as the metric? As a long-term investor, I find it really abhorrent that our generation has sold ourselves once again short for the instant gratification, which has never seemed to work well ever in the history of America. Also, I'm very peculiar. And again, leave a comment down below. Let me know what America is making. And that, we're partying like it's 1929, from spending money to driving up credit card debt to nation debt. I think our national debt sitting at around 28 trillion. I think trillion. I think the T's, I don't even know what comes after trillion, quadrillion. We're becoming quite excessive, overly so. And I think that we're going to say a recession, depression, no matter what. Because the Federal Reserve, if they hike it too soon, if they hike it too late, inflation has already gone wild. We are beginning to look like a photoshopped version of Venezuela. And decided to just kind of quit their jobs for whatever the fuck reasons they feel, I guess, to follow their passions. And don't ever follow your passion that could potentially make you poor, especially if you're not doing your research. Do your research for you, show up to the party. Read the directions for you show up to the party. And by that, I mean, actually do your own research and look at topics that you find interesting. I'm very, 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 very concerned at the state of affairs in America and how easily distracted the my millennial age group has become. I am a contrarian. So when I say that I'm going to literally sit on my hands and not do anything until a crash, that is what I intend to do. That's not going to change at all. And I want everyone to prepare. And by preparations, that doesn't necessarily even mean having an investment strategy. That can mean food, water. If the power grid went off tomorrow, do you have batteries? Do you have a backup plan? Do you have a cell phone charger? What happens if that goes out? What happens if the power grid gets shut off? I know it took 2 teenagers to cut the power grid off in the Ukraine. And right now, with us being so shitty towards engineers, I love developers, programmers, engineers. If you're one, please drop your name in below so I can contact you or reach out. Orca Oshi has a initiative unionize under us, and I have an extraordinary opportunity for anyone. GPU, please comment down below, and I would love to talk to you more about what I intend to do via projects. We get NDA and get going. But I do urge all of you to take a step back. Simply don't. And I'm someone that is so hyperactive and usually the most advantageous human until it comes to market. Own one book, maybe this anything to Anthony Sampson, just so you get an idea of what's running the economy. I am someone that's going to go ahead and make this really pervasive prediction that oil is probably going to get to $100 a barrel. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for a hyperinflation at the pump, even Europe, if gas lines get kind of cut, or are you prepared for those state of affairs? And I do believe the Middle East Trans-Arabian Pipeline is going to thrive. That is the shortest oil transport to Iraq, Lebanon, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Makarabia, Betmana, Assalam, Al-Kil. And I do love the Middle East. I think the Middle East microeconomic situation is going to absolutely thrive from tech, innovation, cybersecurity, and oil. And so are you guys prepared in that essence? Bottled water, food, shelter, and are you prepared to potentially house someone who's makes these jokes on Twitter? And I don't find it really funny. I find it very wasteful that we've become a culture and society that doesn't place value on livelihood, so much so that you can lose everything and go on Twitter and make a meme about it and people will laugh at you. And I don't find that funny. I find it wasteful, and I find it just disgusting that I myself included can definitely get caught up in this. I take basic things for granted, like my security, my safety, my privilege of having a roof over my head, and my ability to have a country that has a very fucking amazing military. But that could all go away when it comes to trying to allocate funds in an economic depression, especially when the Federal Reserve hikes rates and begins to shrink its balance sheet by mortgage-backed securities not being bought and they start to sell those. That's going to begin to ripple. I do I'm going to personally put it out there. I believe that the stock market, and if Bitcoin is linear to the stock market, they will crash simultaneously. I'm going to say the housing market as well will begin to kind of unravel. And by that, we have something called mortgage forbearance, where people thought it was a good idea to put mortgage pauses during the it shall not be named pandemic. And they just like didn't, they said, fuck the mortgage. We're just not going to pay it for 4 months. Then we're going to renegotiate, not pay it again. So you have like all of these mortgage forbearance. I want to say it's 3 to 4 months. I had it written down and I had this memorized like a year ago because I was still just really, really distraught. 85 weeks ago, I predicted rate hikes in 2022. So when I say that when these mortgage forbearances and the foreclosure start showing up, because notice nobody's talking about that. So I want to know how everybody all of a sudden that needed stimulus money and mortgage forbearances to stay in their homes, did they accomplish that? Because I haven't heard a fucking thing. And I know based upon digging here in relation to housing cost, the average American home is like 400,000, yet our average median income is like 40,000. How does that square away? Are we doing subprime mortgage lending? I know that there's subprime lending to cars. So there are just a lot of questions I have going through my mind. Again, I always feel like I'm going to come on here with notes and then I just kind of end up monologuing what's on my heart and my head. So I do apologize for that. I will eventually get some sort of structure. And I have lupus for those that don't know, so I'm a bit unwell right now. But I just wanted to get on and like give people something to think about, talk about that's definitely different than what you're hearing. You're hearing all this positivity, and I just don't believe that finance gives a fuck about my feelings. Finance is not the place to be positive. It's not the place to be negative. It's just the place to make money and to steward your resources how God sees fit. If you are bringing positivity into the financial space, get out. Finance give a fuck about your feelings. You want a friend, get a dog. And I mean, that might sound really cruel. If it sounds cruel, you should not be in it because it's life. But I do think that we need to look beyond just the Federal Reserve, look at China, look at Evergrande, look at the property markets. Look at China lowering rates while we're talking about raising them. What is that going to potentially do in relation to dollar? When you have the second largest property group defaulting, that cannot be a good thing. If you're defaulting in debt with dollars you cannot pay back, and you're the second largest property developer in the world, followed by many of others, then that is not a good thing. And then also let's just talk about the ports that they've closed and the supply chain disruption. One is that you cannot be a single loader. 2012, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, because I do not want to give any misinformation. I like to really be up on my shit. And then expect people to not be able to get their stuff. Okay. Like Walmart has had to rent private trucks. It just demolished with these people raiding the freight trains. So if you're wondering why your package has not been here, just Google News freight train robberies. And you're going to see very quickly how wasteful it is for environment to see all these Amazon packages just sitting on the fucking middle of nowhere. And look at what we're doing off the port of I'm going to say Long Beach. I could be wrong, but it's wasteful. It's frightening. And I think that we need to all be conversing about that. And what's the best way to hedge against that type of environment? Because when this crashes, I predict this is going to be way worse than the Great Depression our grandparents saw. Everyone thinks they're woke. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Can we stop saying things that don't make sense? If it doesn't make dollars and doesn't make sense, then let's just kill it. Because that I'm woke, they need to be awakened. Like, no. Like, let's just talk reality. Let's just stay within the realm of reality. Nothing I'm seeing shows any type of uptrend. We are not being innovative. We are not making things. If you guys can come up with 10 things that America's making right now off the top of your head, drop it in the comment section down the C section below and let me know what your thoughts are. But you have to make shit to make shit. And I think the best recipe for a depression is a society that is politically divided over the stupidest shit that obviously I would say that our world has probably ever seen. over things that people won't remember 20 years from now. And yeah, let's go from there. I love you all. And habak je t'aime, te amo, bisu besu bachi.